Some women don't break down loudly, they simply get tired. Tired of carrying the emotional weight of everyone around them. Tired of explaining themselves. Tired of fixing things that were never fully theirs to fix. And one day, something inside them changes. Not dramatically, not angrily. Quietly, they stop chasing chaos, stop over-explaining, stop trying to rescue relationships that keep draining them, and for the first time in years, they begin choosing calm. Hello, and welcome back. I'm Bernie. And today we're talking about something many women experience in midlife, but often feel guilty admitting out loud. The moment you stop surviving emotionally and start protecting your peace, your boundaries, and your nervous system. Because healing in midlife doesn't always look inspiring. Sometimes it simply looks like becoming unavailable for dysfunction. And if you've been feeling that shift lately, stay with me. Because this conversation may finally explain why your tolerance for emotional chaos has completely changed. For years, many women become emotional caretakers without even realizing it. You smooth things over, keep conversations comfortable, absorb tension in the room, manage other people's emotions, keep families connected, keep relationships functioning. And after decades of doing that, something inside the body begins to resist it. Not because you've become cold, but because your nervous system is exhausted. There comes a point where the constant emotional noise becomes too expensive. The overthinking, the conflict, the emotional unpredictability, the walking on eggshells, what once felt normal, now feels unbearable. And many women mistake this change as becoming selfish, but often it's the beginning of emotional freedom. Because midlife has a way of exposing what truly drains you. You suddenly notice how certain conversations leave you anxious for hours, how some people only contact you when they need emotional support, how certain environments feel heavy the moment you walk into them, and for the first time, you stop ignoring those signals. That's not weakness, that's awareness. One of the biggest shifts that happens in healing is realizing peace is not laziness, rest is not failure, silence is not avoidance, and boundaries are not cruelty. Many women were raised to believe being good meant being endlessly available. Available emotionally, available physically, available mentally. But eventually you realize constant availability destroys your inner life. You cannot heal while constantly abandoning yourself to keep everybody else comfortable. And this realization changes everything. You begin answering messages slower. You stop volunteering for emotional drama. You leave conversations that feel manipulative. You stop explaining boundaries to people determined to misunderstand them anyway. And strangely, the quieter you become, the calmer you feel. Not everyone will like this version of you. Because when a woman stops overgiving, some people experience it as rejection, especially those who benefited from her lack of boundaries. And this is where many women struggle emotionally, because choosing peace can initially feel lonely. You may lose certain friendships, certain dynamics change, some people pull away when they no longer have unlimited access to your energy. But what replaces that chaos is something far more valuable: clarity. You start waking up without emotional heaviness sitting on your chest. You stop replaying arguments in your mind. Your body softens. Your sleep improves. You begin noticing small moments again. Morning light through the kitchen window. Music while driving alone. The feeling of quiet in your own home. Things that once felt ordinary suddenly feel healing. Because peace is not boring when you've spent years emotionally overstimulated. It feels like safety. And this is something many women discover later in life. Calm is deeply underrated, especially after decades of emotional intensity. Some women spend years confusing emotional chaos with passion. But healing teaches you something surprising. Real love does not constantly dysregulate your nervous system. Real connection feels emotionally safe. It feels steady, respectful, consistent, not perfect, but peaceful. And once you experience emotional steadiness, you stop romanticizing confusion. You stop chasing emotionally unavailable people. Stop trying to decode mixed signals. Stop begging for clarity from people committed to inconsistency. Because healing changes what feels attractive. Drama stops feeling exciting. It starts feeling exhausting. And this shift can feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you spent most of your life being needed by everyone around you. Many women quietly reach a point where they no longer want to perform strength all the time. They no longer want relationships built entirely on sacrifice. They want softness now, ease, mutual respect, honest communication, and perhaps most importantly, they want emotional freedom. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from emotional responsibility for everybody else. Freedom from constantly shrinking themselves to keep peace externally, while losing peace internally. And maybe that's the real transformation of midlife, not becoming harder, but becoming more honest about what your soul can no longer tolerate. Because eventually, your body starts rejecting what your mind tried to normalize for years. The stress, the emotional inconsistency, the draining relationships. And healing begins the moment you finally listen to yourself instead of overriding yourself. That's why so many women in midlife begin simplifying their lives. They protect their routines more carefully, spend more time alone, become selective with relationships, create calmer homes, prioritize quiet mornings and slower evenings. Not because they've given up on life, but because they finally understand the value of emotional stability. And perhaps the most beautiful part of healing is that it slowly brings you back to yourself, the version of you buried underneath years of emotional survival. The woman who laughs more easily, breathes more deeply, stops apologizing for needing rest, stops feeling guilty for wanting peace, and maybe you've started feeling that shift too. Maybe your tolerance for chaos has disappeared. Maybe your body is craving calm more than excitement. Maybe you're finally realizing that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's necessary. And if that's where you are right now, you are not alone. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming emotionally aware. And sometimes the healthiest thing a woman can do is stop fighting for relationships, environments, and expectations that continuously rob her of peace. Because healing is not always loud. Sometimes healing simply sounds like this. No more. No more emotional chaos. No more abandoning yourself. No more carrying what was never yours to carry alone. Just calm, boundaries, healing, and finally, freedom. If this conversation spoke to something real inside you, subscribe to The Women's Shed and join our growing community of women navigating midlife with honesty, wisdom, and self-respect. And in the comments, tell me this: what brings you the most peace now that you once felt guilty choosing?